Have you ever wondered what it really means to care for our pets as they grow older? When love starts to look like slowing down, noticing more, and preparing for a goodbye we are not ready for. You are not alone, and that is exactly what we're diving into on today's episode of Tales and Tones. But before we dig in, uh, we recently announced our very first Tails and Tones product, an elevated food and water system designed to support healthier, more comfortable meal times. And we are building this slowly and intentionally alongside our community and trusted experts. And if you'd like to be part of bringing this to life, you can join Piper's Founders Pack. It is open to the first 100 who will ever own a Tails and Tones product. You will get Founders members like early access. You're going to get it at the best price we'll ever offer for this product and priority access to future launches. But more than that, you will be closer to the build than anyone else. You will get behind the scenes updates, early peeks at what is coming, and a real voice in shaping the small details along the way. You can join our pack through the link on our Instagram bio or also in our show notes. Alrighty, let's dig in. Hi there, and welcome to Tales and Tones. I'm your host, Mariska Nau, also known as Piper's mom. Our guest today is the founder of Love Baxter, the world's largest pet end-of-life resource, and the founder of WhiskerCloud, which supported more than 10,000 veterinarian clinics before being acquired by PetDesk. His work today sits at the intersection of care, grief, and support, partnering with veterinarian teams and human hospice professionals to make the hardest moments feel a little less isolating and a little bit more held. Please give a awesome welcome to today's guest, Adam Greenbaum. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. It's amazing having you here, and we've been chatting a bit and obviously going through some of your Instagram stuff, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to find that one day where I'm going to need some of these resources, but I'm so thankful that it's there. But before we go into too deep, let's tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, and they might not know about your work. So if you could maybe just introduce yourself quickly.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Greenbaum. I live in Newport Beach, California with my wife, Elizabeth, and we have Sophie, who's almost 16 years old. She's a Boston Terrier. We have Nala, who's a 10-year-old tabby cat, and we have a 1-year-old Boston Terrier named Cosmo. So I, in a different life, it feels like, started a company called WhiskerCloud. And we worked with over 10,000 veterinary clinics globally, and we did software, websites, marketing, automation for them. And we were acquired by a company called PetDesk, which some of you may use. And, PetDesk acquired WhiskerCloud, Vetstoria, Groomer.io, Contact, couple others. And we formed this incredible giant company that's under the PetDesk umbrella. And it was amazing. And, after I sold my company, I did that for a couple of years. And my dog Baxter got sick, and he was fighting for his life, even though we didn't know at the time he was fighting for his life. And then he died suddenly, and I just felt my whole world kind of collapse. So I, left my company, took a couple months off, and then in July of 2025, I launched Love Baxter in Baxter's honor. And now we help people around the world, care for their senior pets, care for their sick pets, and kind of figure out the end of their life, how to plan for it, how to deal with it after they're gone. There's just a lot that goes into it that no one really prepares us for.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And I mean, just even thinking about that, there's some part of me that almost want to start tearing up because, you just imagine how much you absolutely love your pet and then they're no longer there. So obviously, getting to love Baxter, what you're doing now, when was that moment kind of, when you realized that what you built, was some gap and that no one was offering kind of support for people going through this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was while Baxter was fighting for his life. I was confused because, you know, I've done well in life. I can afford the best care. I know every veterinarian on earth. He had the best doctors, the best treatment, and every day felt chaotic. Every day felt like we were all fighting for our lives, and I couldn't understand why. And then, Baxter's internal specialist, brilliant doctor, she told us on a Wednesday that his blood work was perfect and that he beat it. It being we didn't know what it was. It was something that was making him sick. And then he was gone a few days later. And everything that happened in between that was confusing and scary and just really messed up. And I started talking to vets. I started talking to educators from veterinary schools, and I started talking to pet parents. And I realized this is a big problem. It's like what you said, we all have pets. We all love pets. We all want to have pets in our lives. And everyone wants to sell us insurance and food and toys and
Mhm.
this and that. But no one wants to talk to us about preparing for the end of their life. And for so many of us, it's shocking. I'm not naive to think Baxter wasn't going to die, but I didn't think he'd be gone, 100 hours after someone told me his blood work was perfect and that he was healthy. So there's just a lot of chaos that goes into the end of a pet's life, and I think it's a lot different than when you lose a person in your life, because there's almost like a framework for what to do when you lose a person.
Yeah.
So that's why I love Baxter's here. Love Baxter's here to talk about it because we don't want to talk about it. But if we don't talk about it, you'll go through what I went through. You don't want to go through that. And not everyone knows every vet on earth. Not everyone can spend tens of thousands of dollars on their pet's care like I did at the end. There's a lot of different circumstances for pets and people, and I'm just trying to help people think about it and get educated.
Yeah, and what I really find almost frustrating about this situation is, you had access to well over 10,000 vets that you kind of, had your
Yeah.
previous company build around. So, getting the best of the best was not a struggle. You kind of had access
No.
to that. And even with that, it was that struggle, So I don't even want to know how it must be for people that don't have the access to that. I mean, Piper is at this stage. So, our French Bulldog, she's turning 6 in October. And that's kind of the deadline for getting insurance. So, if she's beyond that, she's uninsurable here. Like, we can't get new insurance. So, that's also like kind of something which I'm like, well, that's interesting. So, what do you do? Do you get, do you
Yeah.
don't? And then kind of prep for that. And I mean, there's so many questions that you can ask yourself as well, like, did we do the right thing or could we have gone? And I think it really kind of spins in your head at some point. And like what you guys have created with Love Baxter, when you kind of go onto that page, like when people first land on your
Yeah.
page, what do you think they are actually needing in that moment, whether they actually realize it or not?
I sometimes I think you just need to like read words about what you're going through. And, after he died, I found myself searching like just the most wild stuff. Not wild to everyone, but wild to me, things I would never search. And I was searching a lot of stuff. I was searching how to know, is my pet dying? Is my dog dying right now? I was searching for that 2 weeks before he was gone, not knowing what to find. And we have stuff like that, like how your pets tell you if they're dying and what you should be doing about it. So yeah, I mean, we have a ton of contents broken down by category, by topic, whether it's something about like, why is my partner not grieving the pet like I am after they pass away? How to prepare kids for the death of a pet? How to plan a dog funeral, how to write a dog eulogy, how to grieve, how to feel what you're feeling. Why am I still grieving so hard years later? We kind of have everything, and everything's just based on, every day we get between 1,000, maybe even 1,500 social media comments, DMs, and emails. So I know what people are asking, and we do the research and create content around that. And again, I just think people need reassurance because I love veterinarians. I've dedicated my life to supporting them. But at the end of the day, they're running a business. They have 30 minutes for you. And I found myself, who's a very prepared person, like going into Baxter's big, expensive internal medicine appointments with like a list of questions. the conversation would go so long, the doctor would kind of be like, "Oh, I gotta go." And all of a
Mm.
sudden we leave and I'm like, "Ah, it's fine. I didn't get answers to these 5 things." But, I want people to be prepared. I want them to push back. You should have a veterinarian that's willing to say, "You know what? No, we're at the end of your pet's life. We're gonna sit and talk. I'm gonna give you the extra 10 minutes." But that's also on the pet parent. You have to be willing to ask the questions and do the research. So, yeah, we've got something for everyone who's looking for something.
Yeah, and I feel a lot of the times it's really hard when you start having to take care of a senior pet. And especially, I've been speaking to quite a few people recently whose dog had dementia. So, what is one thing you wish more people actually talked about honestly?
My dog upstairs has dementia. She'll be 16 in a couple months. Caring for her, it's a really beautiful thing. She's been with me almost 16 years. I always like to say, before I met my wife, before Baxter, before Nala, before Cosmo, there was just me and Sophie. We are the original 2 of this family, and there's pictures of her all over this house. It is hard. There are days where it is so hard because she'll have a day where she's Sophie, and she goes for a long walk, she eats, she's happy, and then there's days where she's got, we call it, like, loop brain, where she's got dementia. She's just kind of, like, doing circles in the house and kind of going upstairs, going downstairs, looking confused, and it's really hard. I want people to just be willing to look at your pet and have a clear idea of what they're really going through. It's not easy. We're completely prepared for Sophie's life. We have a body bag from Euthabag in our home. We know exactly who we're going to call if we wake up one morning and she's not here anymore. And we know exactly who we're going to call when the time comes. And we also have like a red line in the sand. We track her
Mm.
day every day. We track her eating. We track her poop. We track her exercise. We track how many good days versus bad days a week, which we have a template on lovebaxter.com for that. And when that red line gets crossed, we're not going to stress about making a really hard decision because we're going to do the right thing by her. That's really hard to think about that. The power is in our hands when her life ends. But I don't want to go through what we went through with Baxter, which was probably a week late ever again. And I don't want anyone else to go through that. I think I could live with being a day or two early. I don't think I ever want to live with what Baxter went through again. So that's what I would tell people is just, you know, every situation's different, but you gotta plan for it. You gotta be really locked in. You wanna know who you wanna call, prepare for that. There are cremation facilities and in-home euthanasia vets. You can call them and pre-plan with them. You can
Mm.
do that. There's no reason you can't.
Yeah, because I feel sometimes, like, with some of the people that I spoke to, they almost, like, avoid it because they too scared to go through it, and then it's almost like, you're prepping for your pet to die, but your pet is gonna die. But
Yeah.
now you're kind of almost getting to a point where, like, accepting it and knowing that you are making the right choices by them as well, because I can not imagine going through sitting there and the vet is saying, "Oh, we need to euthanize," and you're like, "Well, I can't remember whether, yesterday was a good day or a bad day, or, what was 2 weeks ago." No, I think, so I think it's those things that hits you even harder.
Yeah, I mean, well, and what you just said, like, you hit the nail on the head. So many people go in and the vet says, "Yeah, this doesn't look good. We should probably euthanize today." And I always tell people, you don't have to you don't have to agree right then and there.
Mm.
You do not have to do it. That does not need to be the end. You don't have to do that. Now, obviously, there's emergency situations where there's dire, but if it's not, and the pet can breathe, and you can have a moment of clarity, you don't have to do that right then and there. You can go home and you can think and you can plan. You can figure it out. But so many people, the vet says, "Yeah, it's time to go," and they're like, "Okay, it's time to go." And I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I think that is something that each person need to make that call. And I really like the template, and I'm gonna definitely link that up in the show notes as well so that people can ask themselves those questions, because I don't think anyone knows your dog better than
Yeah.
you. So that vet does not know what a good day looks like for your dog or even a bad day. So I think in the end, you need to be the main person to be able to make that call, because you're also going to be the person that's going to live with that decision. And, that's kind of what I
Yeah.
feel is the hard one to do.
Yeah, it's hard, but this is what comes back to having a plan. Piper's 6, soon to be
Mm,
6, and you've kind of shared some of Piper's story with me. It doesn't mean planning that doesn't mean Piper dies tomorrow or dies
yeah.
next year, but it means when the time comes, and I hope it's 10 years away, and hopefully it will be. But if
Mm,
it's not, if it's 8 years away, if it's 7 years away, if it's 1 week away, talking about it doesn't mean it's gonna happen. Planning for it doesn't mean it's gonna happen. We get car insurance, doesn't mean we're gonna go crash. We have homeowners insurance, doesn't mean our house is gonna catch on fire. So, I think there's a lot of like superstition out there. But yeah, I just don't want people, I don't think it's fair to the pets.
mm,
I don't think their final moments on this in this world should be chaotic, should be calm. I mean, that was what we got lucky with is my wife and I were able to literally stop time, get Baxter a pain injection, call the right teams to help us. And we had a good final 24 hours together after probably the worst 90 hours of my life. We were
wow.
able to just stop, breathe, say our goodbyes the right way. And I don't know if I ever would have forgiven myself had we not done that.
Yeah. Wow. That's really, yeah, that is a hard one. And I think that is so special to, in the end, to be able to give that to your pet, to
Yeah.
almost go with dignity versus in this rush moment. So, and I mean, there's so many things that kind of lead up to this, and you've shared a little bit about Sophie, but as our dogs kind of age, like their routines change. They no longer those little puppy, Have you kind of noticed any shifts in how, like, Sophie eats, or like, does she needs more support around mealtime? And what has that actually taught you about adapting care as your dog grows older?
Yeah, Sophie's a full-time job right now. And you know what's funny is I say that we woke up this morning, she slept through the night, she woke up, she went on a nice long walk, pooped, came home, ate her breakfast, took her medicine. She's got a long list of medicine. We have to use cheese to get her to eat it, and she's sleeping right now.
Oh.
Here's like a day in Sophie's life. Like you and I are filming this podcast, her eye hurts. I was able to get her in with an awesome ophthalmologist, and they like literally were like, "You can come at this time." I literally am leaving the house like the moment we stop recording this podcast but that's senior pet life. It's you have a day, you have a plan, you figure everything out, and then something comes up. It's probably no different. I never experienced this. I didn't have grandparents or parents in my life,
Mm,
but you know, probably no different than having like an 80, 90-year-old parent or grandparent in your life. Things come up. But, like I was saying earlier, some days she wakes up and says, I don't want to eat
mm,
and won't eat for a day. The other day, it was raining outside. She didn't poop for 24 hours. I stood outside in the rain, in the wind for 90 minutes, holding an umbrella over her head at the park as she walked and spun and just couldn't get herself to go. And I was pretty stressed and I was sitting there freezing. I ended up not feeling well after. But, this is what I do. She's given me almost 16 amazing years. And she's my world, and I'm gonna be there with her until the end. And, in the end, I'm gonna do right by her, not when she's having the worst 72 hours of her life, but when we look at each other and say it's time to go. There's accidents in the house now, there never were. Okay.
mm,
We've had to solve that. Like I said, she doesn't want to eat as much. Some days she will we use cheese to give her medicine. She will literally take the pill, suck off all the cheese, and go and spit the pill right out back at us. So we've had to like get creative there. She has Cushing's, hypothyroidism,
mm,
and an intestinal thing. But here's the thing. She hangs out with her puppy brother and her cat sister. She goes on 4 walks a day. She smiles. She goes to her favorite dog bakery and gets treats. She asks for dinner. She asks to go outside. She goes to the beach and she just kind of sits there and closes her eyes and like breathes in the ocean. Like she's living a life that she still deserves to live. There's a lot of hard parts in between, but
mm,
she hasn't told us I'm ready to go yet. But there will be a day when she does, and we're really, really open to it. Not because we want that day to come soon, but because I don't want to go through what I went through again. And I just, I think that's like hard to think about. But on the other side, it's really not. She's living this like beautiful old lady life. She's lost her hearing. So we've like come up with like a sign language system that she
Oh.
understands. So, and like I said, her right eye, she's got like cloudiness in her right eye and she's been scratching at it. So called a couple people and got her in today. And
Yeah.
that's senior
Oh.
pet life. It's expensive. Some months are $1,200. I forgot to mention that she does acupuncture, laser therapy, and gets massages once a month.
Wow.
She does
Living
physical
the
therapy.
life.
So yeah, it is an expensive endeavor, but she's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think we kind of underestimate how like our small like everyday systems like feeding actually impact their life in the later years?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what? I think the best thing I did, and I do this for all of our pets, is they're on like a consistent walk time, consistent eat time, and I think it's really helped in her later years because even the
Mm.
days where she's kind of in her dementia brain, and even the days where we call her a butthead those days, like she's being a butthead, spitting out her pills, like she still walks over to her dinner bowl at 5 o'clock, at 7. She still asks to go for walks at like the same time every day. So, that's been important for us as, as I was growing companies, selling my company and traveling the world and doing a bunch of stuff. My wife and I did a good job of having like systems in place for our pets, just to like for these crazy days they can just know what they're doing. They know when they're eating, they know when they're going outside, and they are the focus of our lives.
Yeah, wow. That is something that I definitely need to focus a little bit more on with Piper because I normally let her sleep in the morning until she wakes up. So some mornings that's 8 a.m., some mornings it's 11.
Wow, good for
But
her.
so I feel bad waking her up for like a walk. So I'm like, you just sleep until, but in the evenings, like it's more of a strict routine, and she'll
Nice.
be like 6:30. She's like, "Hey, I need food. Like, give me food." So
I love it.
yeah, she's got a very sassy life, but loves her morning sleep. So yeah, especially here in the summer months, we have to go for a walk early. Otherwise, we can't
Yeah,
go unless we go to one of the malls. But then I have to like drive there, so it's a little bit more of a thing.
yeah.
But yeah, so we'll have to get a little bit more consistent at that. But yeah. And Adam, kind of, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was like, when Baxter passed and, it was really such an emotional time for you. What
Yeah.
do you kind of wish someone had said to you within those first 24 hours after he passed?
I mean, I was kind of in like a trance for like the first. I mean, I was a mess for about 4 or 5 days. It was a blur. I mean, I just wanted people to honestly like hearing his name meant a lot. Hey, we're so sorry to hear about Baxter. Baxter was great. I mean, you know, I love to talk about him. I love to talk about what a great guy he was. So I think, people would have just said, like, man, I remember when Baxter did this. He was so funny. He did this. I mean, he wasn't my dog. He was family. So
Mm,
he was everything to me. And yeah, those first 4 days are brutal. Oh, man, and every day we hear from people through Love Baxter who are like, "My dog died this morning, my dog died yesterday," and, you know, it's hard, it's hard.
mm,
Everyone wants something different. I think, I think it's more important of the things you shouldn't say to people. "Hey, you can get another dog," or, "Hey, he lived a long life." Like, "Okay, he lived a long life. Does that mean I should be" "Sophie lived 16 years, so it's okay she's dead because she lived a long life." Like, no, that's not
yeah.
how that works. So, I think there's a lot of things people shouldn't say. I think the best thing you can say is, "I'm here if you need me. Baxter was awesome. I love the way he did blank, and if you wanna just talk and vent, I'm here."
Mm,
And I think I think people want to solve things all the time. I would tell you, don't try to solve things. Just
yeah.
go with the pace of the person who lost their pet. Ask them if they need anything. Ask them if they want to just call and vent. Ask if they want you to just sit next to them on the phone or in the room. I would say don't try to solve anything. Don't try to give them ideas. Don't say, "Oh, he lived a long life," or, "Oh, that was a beautiful," don't try to minimize the moment. Let it be a big moment. It's a big
Yeah.
moment. October 28th, 2024 is gonna live with me forever. So, don't minimize it.
Wow. And I often feel a lot of people will say it was just a pet.
Yeah.
which then, I don't know, everything, like all the hairs are
Yeah, well,
rising
those
when I
people
hear
can get
that.
just punched in the face.
I love that one. I'm definitely going to use that. And something that really kind of, I would say kind of opened a little bit more of this moment was, when unfortunately Lewis Hamilton's,
Yeah.
dog passed away. And I feel it was like almost the entire, like people online came together to really give him that moment and to see, this is a dog dad really mourning for his
Yeah.
son.
Yeah.
And, some people, it kind of switched from that. And I think, the more we actually normalize that, the better it would be for so many people. Because when someone's kid passed away, how is that more valuable than someone's pet pass away? So I feel people are almost having this like ruler, like this is how you must grieve, and this is how I'm going to grieve, and I'm going to say it's just a pet and you need to be back at work tomorrow or even today. Like I don't really care about this. So I think there's a lot of that going on, and especially where we are in the Middle East, because it's not a very
Yeah.
dog friendly community. So yeah, what has been your experience with that?
Yeah, I had who I thought was a good friend, who I've kind of just gotten rid of my life, made a comment to me. Is like, "So you're just gonna make this your whole personality?" Sure. I mean, you know what? People know me for a lot of things. If they wanna know me as the guy who loved his dog so much that he would leave his company, upend his life, and go build the world's largest pet end of life platform in his honor and name it after him, that's a pretty cool thing to be known, you know? So I'm okay being known by that. I want everyone to know that dog was the love of my life. I'm
Yeah.
in my home office right now, and I have this awesome fake garage door over there. It's a real garage door. It goes out to a patio with we have like a succulent garden. And I bought this house so I could face out there and look outside. And Baxter died, and his bed was in front of that all the time. And now I face a wall because
Mm.
I don't want to have to look where he was all the time and not see him there. So,
Wow.
does that make me not tough? That's fine. I don't really care what anyone thinks. I just know that
Mm.
that dog was my life. Sophie was my life, and will continue to be my life. And I want to honor these pets because, 35 to 38,000 cats and dogs die every day in the United States. And for most of us who lose a pet, it's like what you said. "Ah, it's just a dog. You can go get another dog." Sure. And by the way, Cosmo came home. We have another dog. I
Mm.
love that kid. He's the best. He's awesome. But he's not Baxter, just like there will never be another Sophie. And hopefully in 15 years, there will never be another Cosmo, which is fine. But yeah, I'm not here to compare it to losing a kid or losing a
Mm.
parent or losing a spouse. Obviously, if something happened to my wife, that would be pretty brutal. Would it be harder than Baxter? Probably. Probably be a lot different too. But at the end of the day, losing him is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. And for a lot of people, they might say, everyone has a dog that died. So if that's the hardest thing you've ever had to go through, good for you. To which I say, no, you don't know my relationship with him. This is really,
Yeah.
really hard and this really sucks. So, yeah, it's hard. And, for anyone out there that's felt this way, I got your back because I think the best thing you can do is I don't really care what anyone else thinks about anything in general anyway, but I certainly don't care what they feel about how I felt about losing Baxter. And I think if a lot of us felt more like that, workplace, home, friends, family, I think you'd feel better as you were grieving them. You don't have to feel weird grieving your pet. You should just, grieve them. Do that.
Yeah. And I think that is something that people should understand, that there's no real timeline for this grief. Like those stuff can pop up in the smallest of moments, where, I don't know, you go to the beach and all of a sudden someone's playing with the same ball as what you
Yeah.
used to. And then, that kind of stirs up things. And, but how can we actually help someone to understand that there is no timeline for grief, whether it is, you going through it on your own or whether you are supporting someone going through that?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I like the idea of giving their memory purpose. Obviously, I built a 37,000 page website and have all these awesome people on our directory and have all this stuff that we've built out. Probably one of the best things I did was I went through old computers, I went through friends' phones, family members' phones, and I got every photo and video of Baxter I could find, and I almost pieced together his whole life.
Wow.
And that was like such a fun journey. I went and I had a computer that was like dead. I took it to Apple. They said they couldn't do anything. I begged them. They were able to like rip it apart, pull the photos off the computer, and it was like thousands of photos of Baxter when I rescued him and brought him home. And just like seeing those for the first time in like 10 years, I had this like flood of memories come back. And I just think doing stuff like that's really cool. We have photos all over the house. One of my employees had a piece of art done by her brother that was like really beautiful. And I'll show you this. I found this part of that computer that was broken. I was young. I mean, I had Sophie. I ran a dog rescue and someone emailed me about Baxter and I was young. I had no money and every dollar I had went to taking care of Sophie and Baxter. And I had all these memories, but obviously like life happens. And then I'm going through that computer and I had this photo and that's
Oh,
Sophie and Baxter and I had put them in the car and I took them to California where I live now. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's where I live now. And I just put them in the car and took them to the beach and spent the night at a hotel with them. And oh my, it was like the best day ever. And it's funny, I'd like forgotten about it. And then I go find that computer and I have this old photo, probably taken on a cheap thing. And now it's framed here in my office. And it's just like, that was an important memory that I kind of like lost in the shuffle of
yeah.
life. And going through their photos, I was able to like revive that memory. And that was just really amazing.
Oh, I love that. And I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many amazing memories that we make kind of along the way. But in one of your recent posts on your Instagram or your socials, you probably posted it more than on just Instagram. But there was something about, people actually looking what happened on the day in the universe on
Yeah.
like kind of their pet's last day. And why do you think actually people get really stuck replaying those like final days, even, years has passed?
I mean, I do it too. You're right. It's hard and it takes a lot of work to remember the good times. I just think they really stick with us. I mean, for a lot of people, Baxter died in my arms upstairs on the couch where we used to lay next to each other. So, it's hard to not think about those days because I'm on the same spot on the couch every day.
Mm,
And I look at it and I see Sophie laying in that spot. I see Cosmo laying in that spot. So, it's hard, but I think it's okay. Like there's something okay with feeling that pain. Like that pain keeps their memory alive. I think what we want to do is we do want to remember the good times. We do want to tell stories about the funny things they did, the things that make them unique. Like I don't see pets as different than people.
mm,
There's good people and bad people. There's good pets, there's bad pets, and I think they're all unique. Baxter did a lot of unique, great things. The last week was just so scarring, so much whiplash. He's going to be okay. And then, he came home. We celebrated like it was literally our wedding night. We came home and
wow.
celebrated. And then he collapsed the next day. He was hospitalized overnight. And then he like lost the use of his legs and it was just chaos. So it's hard to like get past that. I think with time we get better over it. But I also think, like the NASA thing's kind of cool because what I like about it is, 38,000 cats and dogs in the US died on the same day that Baxter died. And we can all look at this photo and his photo is this like beautiful red bridge into the sky. It's like we can all look at that and interpret it differently for our
Mm,
relationship with our pets. And some people email me and they're like, this photo sucks. It's just this. I'm like, well, it's because you're just looking at it for what it is. But like, how did it relate to your life with your pet? And
yeah.
just, 10/28/24 at 11:31 a.m., those numbers are meaningful to me. And by the way, I see 10/28 everywhere now. It is weird. I see 10/28 all the time. I see 28 everywhere. take it as a little bit of a sign, it's just a good
Yeah.
memory of him. I even last night, I saw 28 in the weirdest, most random moment at like 10:15 PM last night. I remember looking at my phone, seeing him being like, what are the literally it was I needed a Google authentication code and I opened my phone to get the code and it had like a sliver left and like refreshed and the code was literally 002800 and it's like, whoa, okay. So, you just it's kind of fun to see those signs and think about them.
Yeah, definitely. And are there any small like rituals before or like after a loss that you and your community have found was really grounding?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, it was weird too. Like there were like songs I'd listened to for years, all of a sudden took on new meaning. So we put together a list on lovebaxter.com. You can go to the search bar and search songs. See songs for pet loss. I mean, I think finding songs that kind of keep their memory alive, good times and bad, kind of spark memories. I think going through the photos, a lot of people have been helped by like writing their pet a letter. So, it's something I really recommend. But, just go look at photos, go relive the times they were here. When they're gone, they're gone. I mean, God, my biggest regret in life is not taking a billion more photos. And I have tens of thousands of them, but I wish there were more videos. I wish there were more
Mm.
photos. I have memories of days and I can't find pictures of them. So, if you're watching this now with pets, take photos, take video, record them barking or purring or meowing or, you know, if you have horses, them neighing. I don't know if it's neigh or what, but,
Yeah.
get
Take more photos and
yeah,
video.
just start cataloging their life, not because it's like, "Oh, I have to build a catalog," but
Mm.
really build it in a way where 10 years from now, you'll be able to look back. I mean, I think we all do that in our family too. I mean, I don't have many childhood photos of
Mm.
myself because of my family stuff, but, my wife and I have done a good job of cataloging our life together, and I highly recommend doing it for your pets.
Adam, what has kind of loving Baxter and now, caring for Sophie, Cosmo, and Nala changed about how you actually move through the world?
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I are pet parents and we don't have human kids. These are our kids. And, I we build our life around what works for them. And I think that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Having pets means we exercise more, we're outside more, we meet more people, we go explore different parts of our city and neighborhood. We bring them on trips with us. It's just really cool to have these awesome beings that love you more than anything. Your life revolves around them and their life revolves around you. And, you know, we even recently we got Nala, our cat, we got her a stroller. We started taking it out. We take the dogs to a koi pond at Fashion Island near us and they love it. And we brought Nala in and we opened it up and she's usually a runner and she just stood there and looked at those fish and she was like, "Oh my god, what am I looking at?" She's 10 years old. Why did we wait 10 years? I don't know, but
Yeah.
so now, they have one life just like we all have one
Mm.
life. Why aren't we maximizing it for them? Why aren't we doing this stuff? So, yeah, it's just, it's caring for them has just taught me to like slow down, see the world through their eyes. I mean, I know how Baxter saw the world and it was really cool. And I try to see the world the way he sees it, the way Sophie sees it, and it's a really cool view if you look at the world that way.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. And yeah, Piper also has a stroller and she's like the stroller queen. Like we got it for her when she was just a couple of months old because she has this almost like fear leaving the house. She does not like to leave the house no matter
Oh,
where we go. If we walk leaving the house, she's like, "Okay, I'm going to stop now because maybe the further we move, the further we're away from the house." So then we figured out if we put her in the stroller, we go out to wherever, then she's very happy to walk back. So
I love
that
it.
was our hack. And yeah, so she's actually done a lot of my marathon training with me as well
Nice.
in the stroller. So yeah, definitely given like open up a whole new world for her. So she's
I
loved
love
it
that.
as well. Yeah. And if someone is listening to like this episode
Yeah.
and they might be experiencing, going through some hurt or, quietly sometimes even going through it, not wanting to talk too much about that, What do you hope they feel after listening to our conversation?
Yeah, I just hope you think it's normal to feel that way. It's not weird. I don't care what anyone says. You should grieve as long as you need to grieve. I'll grieve Baxter for a long time. I weirdly like the pain of grieving him because it keeps his memory alive. I think our
Mm.
brains do a good job of, trying to protect us and trying to suppress bad memories. And I want to keep him alive, and I keep him alive through Love Baxter. So, you're not alone. There's a lot of people out there going through this. I mean, every day in the world, imagine how many pets pass away if we know that 35 to 38,000 just in the US. So, yeah, and please go to Love Baxter. Hopefully you find what you need. If we don't have what you need, send a message and we'll get you what you need.
Yeah, I love that. And where can people actually find you guys?
Yeah, lovebaxter.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, just Adam Greenbaum. And we're on social media. It's usually at Love Baxter Co. And yeah, check it out and read comments that other people are leaving. I mean, the comments people leave are like the most insightful things I've ever read. I mean, it's clear how much people love their pets. It's really beautiful.
That is amazing. And I absolutely love all your passion bringing this to, what is in fact going to be some of people's most hardest days and trying to make that a lot easier. So thank you, Adam, for creating this. It means the world to me and to so many other pet parents as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. And if you watch this, I appreciate you all for being out there.
You're most welcome. There's one more question I have for you,
Please.
and it is you've obviously built and scaled some very meaningful companies in the pet space. When you meet like founders today, what actually tells you that they're building something that truly matters, not just something that sells?
They give a shit. Yeah, I mean, it's really that simple. I think a lot of people are, there's a lot of quick ways to make money. I think back to my life, I would be 10 times more successful if I just didn't care about quality. But
Mm,
unfortunately, I just care too much about quality, and I like founders who do that. And I think in the long run, there's a lot of get rich quick people, but I think the people who really build with intention and care do really beautiful things.
amazing. Well, thank you so much, Adam, for being a guest on the podcast. Is
Thank
there
you.
any questions you felt we've missed out on or anything you want to still add?
No, you rocked it. I can't thank you enough for having me here. This was awesome.
Oh, you're most welcome. So, when it comes to caring for our pets and navigating the hard moments that come with loving them, I hope this conversation reminded you that you do not have to carry any of it alone. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining us on today's episode and for all the amazing work that you are doing. And thank you for tuning into today's episode of Tales and Tones. If today's episode spoke to you, please do give us a review on Podchaser and maybe share it with a fellow pet parent. It really helps this podcast to actually grow and make us get more amazing guests for y'all to hear and get more experts on there. So please, I would appreciate that so much. And if you've got any questions or you just want to come and say hi, you can always find us on Instagram at Tales and Tones, where every tale tells a story and every tone speaks from the heart. See you in the next one.